the document for to fire for to tea, for example, because in the archive was an headquarter for a part of the guerra. It's terrible for us, for the historian. This is more modern, the archive in Madeira. You know, Madeira is an archipelago. It's formed for the Madeira Island, Porto Santo Island, and Ilhas Desertas. But it's the first war, more or less, in Madeira. This is the archive of Madeira, yeah? And this is the island then. There is the Madeira Archipelago, as Wild Island, the Canary Island, the Cape Verde, and here you are the Villagós, and here Bioko, Annobón, São Tomé, Príncipe, and it's just the equator. The equator is in the island of São Tomé. Not exactly in the island of São Tomé. It's a small island. In Portuguese, is Ilhéus. Name it Rolas. And there is the point around the world where it's crossing equator and the meridian zero. It's important in the African island, the geological. All this island was not coralline island like Barbados. This is always is volcanic island. This is in the Canary Island, in one island named Lanzarote. In this area, in Lanzarote, was an important and very large eruption in the 18th century, from the 1730 to 1736. 6 years about the eruption and transformed it a great part of this island, in Lanzarote. And this is in La Palma. This eruption was in 2021, yeah? Only 1 year ago was the last eruption in our island, in island of La Palma. Is an island in the Canary Island. And this is in the São Tomé. This is the main point, named Pico Cão Grande. Is 300 meters and in the center of this island. It's an equatorial island, yeah. And this, the last eruption in La Palma, only the historic eruption only in the Canary Island, in several islands, in Lanzarote, Tenerife, La Palma, and El Hierro, and in Cape Verde only in the Fogo Island. And then the geography, the mark, is very influenced by the volcanic area. This is the name of caldera. Caldera is a concept, mundial concept, caldera, but the name is original for the Canary Island. The name was taken by Humboldt. Because in Canary Island, name caldera is a volcanic when the finish of eruption is explosion. This is in the Canary Island. This is the part, the most altitude of the Spain is in the Canary Island, in Tenerife, in the Pico Teide. You know here, a point is Pico Tenerife, yeah, in Barbados. The island is conditioned for the have several microclimates. Yeah, it's different between the slope, the slope to the winds. Normally in this island, the north is a stream wind and is more wet. Then is more water, but in another island it's very, very dry. This is very very wet. In Madeira, for example, is the most wet this island, and Sao Tome, of course, because it's this is in our island. Now this is in Cape Verde. Then it's very dry, yeah. And this is an island in the Cape Verde named Santa Lucia, but it's empty absolutely because it's very dry. And in 19th century was empty, for the people emigrated. And this is in Santo Antão, another island in the Cape Verde. This is in the Santiago, is the main island, the capital island in the Cape Verde. Cape Verde is nine island, and there are in the moment of the photo is the fort of San Felipe, and can control the island and the sea. This is another island for Madeira, named Porto Santo. This is the capital of Porto Santo. It's a very small island, and this city, more or less, named Vila Baleira. The important for the historian of this island is what Christopher Columbus lived there, because Christopher Columbus was married with a woman named Filipa de Perestrello, and she was daughter of the captain, the captain of the island, named Perestrello. Then Columbus married with her, but in the first parto, what do you say? Parto? Yeah, the first birth in San, she passed away. Then Columbus is leave of these islands. And the Sao Tome is very interesting. This is one caldera too in volcano, but it's a very wet island. Then it's strange because it's very wild and very rainforest, yeah, rainforest. And here you jump in there, and in another place of this floor. Pasa el PowerPoint un poco, sí. Well, then I know, but an oasis in the Atlantic desert is this island and the Caribbean island too. But we must study, we must reconstructing the compared history, because there are interconnection between two shores, the left margin and the right margin. Then with the understand the ocean, the Atlantic island. Huh?
The focus is not good, and if we turned off some lights, then that would also be because I don't know if there's a.
Can you just focus on the is right here.
Yeah, but the Middle Atlantic is a desert, but the oasis is this island. Yeah, and in the world, the most part is ocean, no earth. Then perhaps the planet must name ocean, no earth, because earth is only a quarter part of this planet. But it's very interesting, the maritime history. But in the maritime history, necessary is very important, the island. And in this period, from 16th to 18th century, was the capitalist war economy, the new economic system. Yeah, and it's very important for this division of the world. And the money is in Europe, the credit is in Europe, the library, the very cheaper library is slavery from Africa, and the plantation and the production is in the Caribbean. Then there are a frame and is maintained till today, because today the rich country is Europe and North of America. The most poor, the poorest country is Africa, and the Caribbean and this island, the south of Europe, is a different part. Is the second world, perhaps. Yeah. And it's important to understand the expansion of the Europe of this area. It's very important. Several invents and discover in this moment. It's important. The discover, the inventions is important. It's important the money, the capital. It's important the people too. Then Europe, specifically Portugal and Castilian, have a lot of people, have money, more or less, and he applied the invention, but several of this invention was by China. But the Italian people, the Castilian people, and the Portuguese people know to the China, the India, about or across the Marco Polo and so on, and this trade between Europe and Orient. But in 1453 is crashed this trade because the expansion of the Ottoman Empire take one part important is Istanbul. The city of Istanbul, you know, is between Europe and Asia, is this trade. Then it's necessary to trade with Orient about the ocean, about the sea. Then the compass is one of important of this invention. Pasa al otro. The astrolabio, I don't know the traduction in English, is an invention for you can put the latitude, you know, the world, you have an angle, the point, the north is the angle between the north and the equator, and the middle is 90 grade, yeah? And you can count what grade exactly across the astrolabio. Dale al otro. And another ship, very important in this moment, named Carabela. The carabelas, like in Cristobal Columbus, for example, and it's very important because in this part, the predominant winds is for the Alisios winds, and it's from northeast to southwest. Then it's very easy the navigation from the north to the south, but it's very complex. Return from the south to the Europe again, till not exist American, yeah. But in this type of ship have veil, quadrangular veil, and triangular veil. The triangular veil, named Latin veils, is necessary for navigation against the winds with the triangles, vela se dice veils,
Sails.
sails,
Vela.
vela, sail, sail, como marino. ¿Ah? Vela de barco es sail. No sabía. The sails, okay. The triangle sails, you can navigator is contrabarloventear, is against the wind, because when the winds, against the winds, you can in zigzag, you can move. Today is an important sport in the Canary Island. The run against every Saturdays in the Canary Island, there are a run for these several ships with this sail, the triangle sails, name it Latin sails, yeah, and it's important. Then, when this expansion to Portuguese and Castilian is the first problem, because in the Castilian there was a civil war for the dynasty, and the important is not the dynasty really, the important is the trade, and who gets the trade. The one possibility to Castilla is the union with the Aragon, the other part of Spain, and with the trade, the Mediterranean trade. But another possibility is Castilla and Portuguese, and connected the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean trade, and it's possible to go to the Orient. And this war was finished in 1479 with the Treaty of Alcazovas. Alcazovas is a small city in Portuguese. 1479. Then Portuguese let you can form a crown with the Aragon, but is one consequence. But another consequence is the first time in the world in which two great countries is divide a war. Then he puts a line and say, this line said, to the north, the Canary Island, was to the Castilian, but the south, but in 1479, European don't arrive to American, and even don't cross the Cape of Buena Esperanza of the south of Africa. Then all the south and so on is to Portuguese. But in 1492, when Christopher Columbus discovered American or arrived to American, say it's a problem, because then over there is to Portuguese, no possible, because Columbus is here. Then it's necessary another trade. It's the second trade in war, where two great countries share the war again, namely the trade of Tordesillas. Tordesillas is a small city in Valladolid. This is the building in which signed this trade in Tordesillas. Is a small village in the Valladolid. Yeah. This is a map where you can go. The Azores, I don't include the archipelago of Azores, because Azores is not the middle Atlantic. Azores perhaps is North Atlantic, and it's different. It's a volcanic area, but no, it's different because it's the shock between the ocean plaque or platform with the platform European, and the other is different. For example, Madeira, Canarias, Cabo Verde, geological, volcanic, and it's because in the platform, the African platform, we are African island, and the African platform was a break for the depression of the ocean, and is a lot of magma, and million years was this island. Pasa la foto de nuevo y deja el PowerPoint. Okay, another photo, for example, no veo lo que... no. But I think it's in Sao Tomé. ¿Pasa otra? Yeah. Yeah, it's in Sao Tomé too. You can see the rainforest, very important, and it's very rich for the plantation too. Then the first plantation, first in Madeira and the Canary Island, was the sugar cane. First in Madeira and the Canary Island. After war, to Sao Tomé. Sao Tomé is at south. And it was a crisis to the economy of Madeira and Canary Island. And these archipelagos changed to the wine, because the sugar cane in Sao Tomé is a very small island, it's more or less like Barbados. A little bigger than Barbados, but the sugar cane was very important. But when the sugar cane is translation to the Caribbean, is a crisis, is the sugar cane, and a very important crisis in Sao Tomé. And here is in the Isla de Bioko, in Equatorial Guinea. And this island necessary was defense about the possible fight against these opposite countries. And then one similar characteristic of this island is the forts around the coast. It's very, very density of forts. This one is in Fuerteventura, one island in the Canary Island, named Tostón. El otro, ¿saltaste una o no? ¿Saltaste una? No. No, yeah. And this area is important. This is the Canary Island, and this is Spain, the mainland, and this is the African coast. And today is point very important in this expansion in the 15th century. Ceuta, for example, was conquest for the Portuguese. Today, Ceuta is a city, Spanish city. Tánger, Salé, Casablanca, Azamor, Mazagan. Mazagan, for example, was founded to the Portuguese, but in 18th century, this city was taken for the crown of Morocco, and Portuguese put in several ships all the population, and it was translated to Brazil, at the north of Brazil, and name it today is a city named Nova Mazagan. Mogador, today name it Essaouira, for example. Aguer, Santa Cruz de Berberia. But the first time, only the navigation, this is a psychological border, the Cape of Boyador. This is in a country named Sahara Occidental, the West Sahara. But today is occupied by the Moroccans. And after that, with this compass and astrolabe and so on, they can go to the Cabo Blanco. This is Cabo Blanco is the border between today Sahara or Morocco and Mauritania. And the Arguin is a special area, very, very interesting too, with the population named Inragen. And the Inragen today, in 21st century, they have ships like the triangle, the Latin sails, and name it Canarian ships there, and it's no contaminate because it's only by sea. Then it's very interesting. And it's another map when this is possible to go to the Cape Verde and the Guinea Gulf. And is in this moment begin the most awful trade and the most important trade in these centuries, in 17th and 18th century, and is the trade of slavery. The slaves, this is a caravel, and this is another part of the Madeira. You know, the altitude is very important in the Madeira. This is the altitude is Pico Arellero, is more than 1,300 meters. And this is the most altitude of the Spain, the Pico Teide. This is 3,714 meters. Yeah, this is the Pico Teide in the Tenerife Island. And it's another photo, the Teide, and this a very big caldera named Las Cañadas. Yeah, and you are here, I show the sugar cane today in the Madeira Island, but it's very small. It's not comparative with the Barbados, for example, or the other Caribbean islands. And it's very important, a culture about the water. The water is very important for the agriculture, for the life. And this in Madeira, for example, name it levadas. And it's a culture basis in the knowledge about the several centuries work the agriculture there. Well, the first occupation of this archipelago was not for Castilian, not for Portuguese. Was for Norman in France, and this port named La Rochelle, from La Rochelle in 1402. And another fortress I speak in this is in Lanzarote, the castle of San Gabriel is at the end of the 16th century. This is the Guanapay, the castle of Guanapay, or Santa Barbara too, and but this is the first fortress in the island. Is the unique. It's not in the coast because in the first time the important is protect against the population there. This island was empty, but not in the Canary Island. In the Canary Island, there was an indigenous named Guanches. Guanches is very important. They were exterminated, but today is very important in the identities of the Canarian people, the Guanches. And you know the slave trade. And you know this draw about the ship, this terrible, and this is archaeological element from the Guanches culture, the original culture, name it pintaderas. for example, or today the archaeological can analyze the crane and the teeth. For example, to the teeth they can know what is the type of water, for example, and the island, because and the food, because in the teeth there are rests of sheets, rests of food, and it's possible to know. This is another island in the Madeira, very spectacular for the mountains. Yeah, another similar. And here is the difference of the Canary Island and the Madeira, and here is the wild island, no? The Ilha Salvajem is there. It's very small and is inhabited today. And this is the coast of Africa. The nearly is the island Fuerteventura to the Cabo, ¿cómo se llama? Tarfaya, and is 100 kilometers. But today is constantly arrive people from Africa about in very primitive, very small ships. Practically every day there are migration. No formal migration, of course. And here is Cabo Verde, is nine islands inhabited, one island desert. And this is the Villagos archipelago I spoke in, but it's very near to the mainland, no? The Guinea-Bissau. This is a fort in Guinea-Bissau, named Fort Amoura. And this is a house in Senegal. In Senegal, there are a small island, very, very near to Dakar, the capital of Senegal, named Gorée. But every island was especially of deposit of people, deposit of slaves to sell at ship to go to the American and the Caribbean. This is the Fort Amoura too, is from the 18th century. And this is the room of slave in this house, but is no window, nowhere, no oxygen. It's a terrible situation. It's another house of the slave from the 16th century, 1536. And this is another important factory in which captives at the slave in Ghana is named Elmina. The first name was San Giorgi da Mina, Saint George of Mine, but the evolution of the name today named Elmina, and it was perhaps the most important, or one or two or three, the most important in Africa was there. Actually, is Ghana, and another one is another. This is another one at the opposite in the Gulf, named Cape Coast. It's very similar to. Okay, this is in Cape Verde. The first capital was Ribeira Grande. Ribeira Grande was the first, but in 18th century is translated because it's very important characteristic in this island and the Caribbean island, the parade too. The parade and the assault of the parade. Then it's necessary build a fort like this, name it San Felipe. in Ribeira Grande, and is at the top of the mountain, and could be the ship, and with the canyon protect. And this is another important factory of slaves in a country named Benin. Benin. This is the city, the small city named Huida. Huida. The name, the first name was Ayuda in Portuguese. At the derivation of the Ayuda today is Huida. And the tradition said in this trip, self-slave, and it was relevant. One person, one Brazilian man named Francisco Francisco Sousa, and this is the house of Francisco Sousa, and in this trip, the slave. Well, another fort in this case is in Madeira, named Conceição, in the capital of Madeira, named Funchal. The capital of Madeira named Funchal. Another fort is there, a castle named São Lourenço. Another is a big density in this in Funchal, for example. This is the fort of Santiago. Santiago. It's right, the time. Yeah? Quickly. Okay. Pon las otras, pasa. This is in another place in Madeira, several forts. It's another place in the north, in Porto Moniz, in São Bento, another place in Madeira. This is in Porto Santo, the small island where Columbus lived, named São José. And this is in the Canary Island, in the Garachico. Garachico was a very important port in the 18th, but and volcanic erosion at the beginning of the 18th century transformed the port, and today is no port because a gulf was a cape. This is another place, Puerto de la Cruz. This is San Felipe, Puerto de la Cruz also. This is a deposit of the munition. This is in our city, in Las Palmas, the Casamata. This is Castle of Mata. This is a diamond point. In this point, they put a soldier with a cannon and is protected. This part of the city is in the 20th century. At the beginning of the 20th century was the finish of the city. Then the diamond point was important. And this is the wall. All the city is around the walls. Pasa más rápido. Another one, this is in Fuerteventura. This is Fuerteventura too. Pasa. Always 40s in different countries, in Cape Verde. Sigue pasando. This is in Praia. It's important in the expansion Portuguese de Infante Don Enrique. Pasa al PowerPoint. Sí, sigue pasando. This is the important building in Tenerife. Sigue más para abajo. This is pelourinho in Portuguese. In Spanish, picota. I don't know in English. Picota or pelourinho. It was a part when the slave was tied and sell the trade, and it's possible to fight a fugitive, for example. This is like a yucca, more or less, in the other side. Pasa. This is the first strip in the Africa, name it, street, Banana Street is the first name. Rua is in Portuguese, Rua Banana. See, this is the first construction of Portuguese in Africa, the exchange with clothes. Pasa más, porque vamos rápido. Yeah. Well, this is important, the organization of the trade between the United Kingdom with the Canary. The Canary sell first sugar and second wine, and United Kingdom sell manufactured products, clothes, and this is a circular trade. This is what do you say, the industry of the sugar. This is from the 15th century in the Canary Island. Ingenio, say in Spanish. Yeah. Well, they were associated with the onset of Atlantic expansion, or were established in border area is another characteristic. This island was the border for the empire. The border for the empire, Spanish Empire, Portuguese Empire, British Empire, French Empire, but border against the Islam, for example, in Africa, border against the African, the wild people in Africa. And Madeira began to be populated from 1425, and crowns guaranteed through bureaucracy and institution, and the Canary Islands provide to be a key testing ground in the European colonial history. Is a product the primitive canary named guanche. This is a corn, and with corn the guanche transform it in a product named gofio. It's only in the Canary Islands. But for example, I eat gofio every day. Every day. Today. Pasa. Ya, sigue bajando. Sigue. Se ya vimos. Yeah, this is the castle in the Cape Verde. This is the place in which the Spanish arrived in the Bioko, named Fernando Po, in 18th century. This is the Luba Gulf. And Annobon was discovered by the Portuguese. Annobon today is Equatorial Guinea too, and there are intercontinental trade, and the Canary Islands participate in this trip through Portuguese mediation, and the main purpose of important from Guinea was slave trade, of course, and the network also include the Caribbean region. This is people from Annobon. This is Guinea too. Very important in the Canary Islands. When I was child, the labor of the agriculture was by camel in several islands, in Fuerteventura, in Gran Canaria, in areas very dry. This is an important trade of slaves in Portuguese, in a city at the south of Portuguese, the region of Algarve, name it Lagos. Lagos is the most important city today in Nigeria, but the origin of the name of the lago was this city in Portuguese. Sigue pasando, Sergio. It's very important for understand the winds. Then in the north, the north hemisphere and the south hemisphere is different, for the Coriolis force. But name it here, the anticyclone was year like a clock. but the depression is against. Then is a stream of wines and a stream, a marine stream, and it's possible near in 25, for example, days, it's possible from Canary Island to Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, the Barbados in 19 days. And here is different, the winds too. Yeah? For example, you know, we must spend more time from Europe to America que the return, because the return, the fly is at the north and approach this wine. It's very constant. And it's the distance between the Caribbean island too. And here is the kilometers from the mainland Cadiz to the Canary Island are 1,300 kilometers. But for example, to La Habana is 7,200 kilometers and so on. This is in La Habana, very important too. Sigue. This is in Jamaica, a city named Spanish Town in Jamaica. This is in Puerto Rico, San Juan de Puerto Rico. And it's triangle trade. Pasa. Okay, and this is the triangle trade from Europe to in Canary. Europe puts money and ship in Canary Island wine like rum. Brea is necessary to the ship, clothes, iron, glass. And here, the Africa, the Guinea Gulf, and in Angola is a slave to Brazil. And from America, tobacco, sugar, cacao, coffee. Yeah. And this is the count of the tax for the bureaucracy in this island to the relationship with the Caribbean island. And this is another tinte, I don't know. Tinte, ¿sabes decir, Cristina? No.
Dye. Per colore.
Yeah.
Dye.
Dye. Yeah. This is named cochinilla. Cochinilla. Yeah, it's a parasite and it's in this plant, and this is the parasite. And when you crush, is this color. The color is important too. The history of color is important because the color today the color is for chemic anilinas. Now it's the same green, yellow, or black. But in this time, no chemical anilina. Then the color, you take the nature. And the first color expensive was the purple. You know, for example, the red purple, the color for the Pope, for example, is the most expensive. And when Europe arrived in America have cochinilla and a trip named Palo, the wood of Campeche in Mexico, and Brazil. The name of Brazil is when you cut a tree, is like a fire, a brass in Spanish. Then it's Brazil. Then when this tree is mixed when lemon juice and mineral named alumbre, you can take red color and is is more cheaper. It's very expensive, but more cheaper. No, with the lumbre. Only with this plant, with the palo de Brasil, palo de Campeche, or cochinilla, is more cheaper because you can take in America. It's expensive because you must go from America, from the Caribbean to the Europe, but it's more cheaper when it's the first element for the purple red was mollusco, the mollusk, and it's very, very difficult. And the orchilla is another plant, but it's very, very expensive. But now for example, if you look at the painting of the kings, for example, the curtain is always red because it's the power, my power. I am a rich man and I want color my curtain with red. But when this trade, when American and when the Caribbean, the color more expensive was the black color. Because it's necessary. The red color, the Brazil or Campeche, for example, with lemon juice and alumbre is a mineral. Then, from the 16th century, the king and the people, his clothes was black. And the king, for example, and the picture of the king always is in black. And today, the formal clothes for us is black, and is from this time. I'm sorry, I speak a lot of, but I'm glad from here, and I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor
Thank you.
for your illuminating and extremely relevant presentation. It's really interesting to work through our shared histories and heritages between the two archipelagos, and just so cross-disciplinary as well across many different areas of study. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor to questions from the audience for Professor Santana Perez.
Yeah. Cristina, ¿puedes traducirme? Porque yo oigo muy mal.
Oh, great. Can you help translate? I'm trying.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I'm a bit confused now. I'm seeing lots and lots of forts where we seem to me to be involved with slave trade. At the same time, you're talking about lots of exports. Could you tell us what really which was most important to the islands? Was it the fact that there were a sort of depot for all these exports and exports, particularly of cooks rather than slaves? So were the slaves predominant? That's the first bit of the question. The second bit is... sorry.
Translate, please.
So, what was more important, the exports for the island?
Yes, the trading depot, but there's so many forts. So was it the slave trade that was more important? Or
Yeah.
Vale, si el tratado de esclavos...
El
si
tráfico.
Exacto, el tráfico de esclavos era lo más importante.
Not really. It's more important, for example, the sugar cane and wine. But the slave is more important for the European people. For the island, it's only a deposit. Only an almacén deposit, no? A big deposit. And is south of wealthy. But the most important is the plantation too.
Right, okay, thank you. Can I just ask you what happened? Some of the islands that are obviously uninhabited, but some presumably had original people living there before the Europeans arrived. Did they become part of the trading culture, or was that small part of the population of the islands?
Que antes de que llegaran los europeos, había gente viviendo allí.
Only in the Canary Island.
Yeah.
Only, yeah.
Okay.
These people was from the north of Africa and arrived more or less in the first century of our era. The first century was emigration, but today we don't know exactly how, but more or less first or second century of this area was migration for the Berber from the north of Africa to the Canary Islands. And the European extinguished and incorporate. We are a part genetic, we are partially Guanches, but mixed with European people and black people too, and Moorish people. It's a very mixed.
Right. So
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing? You showed us where the currents went along from into the Caribbean. And I just want to say about 20 years ago, I found a message in a bottle on Long Beach, Barbados. And it was from a Netherlands oceanographer who had put it in the water in Cape Verde. And it had gone, it hadn't gone.
Yeah.
Did it have a
Yeah,
date on it?
yeah,
How
yeah.
long did it take?
I don't know, it was several months, I think it's
Yeah.
about 8 months.
Always the Canary Island was the last Earth till across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Then it's very important, for example, for the ship, for water, for food,
Yeah.
and for, I don't know, calafatear. The ship is necessary care the ship because it's good. And this good was a parasite named Broma. And if no care the ship is Greekers.
So the bottle was better.
Yeah. And in forced travel of Christopher Colombo was from the Canary Island, always. The last one was in the Canary Island. And one time, the third travel was Canary Island, Cape Verde, and here at Trinidad, more or less, in this area at the Trinidad, Venezuela. But first in the Canary Island, and in four in the Canary Island.
Well, Long Beach is actually very south of Barbados.
Yeah. And in the 17th century was an important trade between Canary Island with Barbados with the wine. The Canarian wine was very important. Shakespeare, for example, in his novels, speak about the Canarian wine. The Canarian sell wine to the United Kingdom. And in 17th century was an important period. It's direct from the Canary Island to Barbados. But perhaps it's necessary more research about this event. It's very important, and it's our union between the Canary Island and the Barbados. Okay, thank you very much.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
If you don't mind, sir. You showed us a lot of public monuments, demarking certain points in the history and the role of the Canary Islands in the transatlantic slave trade. But you also showed us a lot of military forts. One of the things that we've been trying to do in the Caribbean is include information panels on some of our military architecture, like forts, to
Yeah.
acknowledge the role, not only the role of the sites themselves in the transatlantic slave trade, but the role that the enslaved had in building these sites. And I wanted to know if that was also present in some of those forts in the Canary Islands that you showed us.
Yeah, the forties.
Yeah.
Sí, de paneles, por ejemplo, de
Sí,
información que hay
sí.
en todos estos puentes que
Sí,
hemos
sí.
mencionado, si también el tráfico de esclavos está reflejado.
No,
en esos
no,
paneles.
never,
Oh, wow.
never. No,
Yeah.
it's a shame and it's occulty.
Yeah. 'Cause you can
In Canary Island, never speak about this slavery. But in Canary Island was slavery and the trade slavery. But nothing is, only the historian we research about this trade, but nothing perception. Now our archaeology is his work about a century of the slavery in the Canary Island, but it's not very, it's not popular speak about the slavery. And today the descendant of the slavery people, there are two groups of slavery: the black people, the Saharian people, and North Saharian, no? the Moorish people. But it's important to two groups. But today, the black people in Canary Island, today there are a lot of black people, but it's a recent migration till 19th decade of the 20th century. But the old people, slave, was mixed and no descendant. In the Canary Island, in the Madeira, the most people said, we are not Africa, we are Europe. But you look, the map is Africa. But they say, no, I am European people. And when I speak a teaching in island Reunion Island, is an island near to, very close to Madagascar. Is more or less 7,000 kilometers from Europe. And when I speak my teach there in 2 weeks, I'm glad because I am African people from Ireland like you. They say, hey, we are not African. No African, no. Where are you? European. Look the map. You are 7,000 kilometers.
That's fascinating. Thank you. I have
Yeah.
one other question. I was wondering if you could scroll back up to the image of the material, the piece of cloth. I think is that okay? Just scroll back up in the PowerPoint.
No entendí.
Sorry, I think it was here. You were talking about the exchanges of material. There's a piece of cloth on display. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit more with this.
Yeah.
Share a little bit more about what this is.
Yeah, this is in Cape Verde, but in Cape Verde, manufactured primitive clothes, and it was a trade from Cape Verde with the mainland Africa in this moment, in the 18th century.
Yeah, because the pattern is quite similar, and Kay is working on a project with this, so she can also verify. I mean, in part it looks almost like a quilt, but at the same time it looks very similar to a type of material that's prevalent throughout the Caribbean called madras. Would you say so?
It does. It actually also looks quite a bit like the New Barbados tartan.
Right, it's like a quilt, but also the madras. So that is, that's very interesting. I think it's something to unpack there because the madras has a very entrenched cultural significance for the enslaved populations of the Caribbean and descendants of the enslaved throughout the Caribbean. So yeah, it was very
Probably from the Africa is possible. Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the audience for Professor Santana Perez? No? Kay, do we have any questions on Facebook?
Unfortunately, no.
Well, at this point then, I'd like to say a huge thank you again to Professor Santana Perez for your presentation, and thanks to all of you for your participation. I'd also like to give some thanks to Dr. Rosanna Herrero Martin and Dr. Tara Ennis at UWI for coordinating this event with us, as well as my colleagues at the Barbados Museum and the Exchange Interactive Centre for all of their support in facilitating this event, particularly Lachey Drayton, Kay Hall, Brian Batson, Marcy Griffith, McFeel Clark, Elizabeth Hines, and Albert Howells. Thank you again, and we'll be around. You can have a chat with Professor Santana Perez. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.